We took it all. We brought them to our land. An endless night, ember hot and icy cold. The rage of the earth. We made this curse. Carved it in the blood on our backs. We did not see. We could not, but she did. And in the end...
What will I become?
Senua's Saga. Hellblade 2.
Play it now with Game Pass.
Finita! L'Ade in paradiso! L'Atalanta bergamasca calcio vince la UEFA Europa League! Gasperini vince il trofeo! Lo vince Percassi! Lo vince Bergamo e tutta la provincia! È un successo gigante anche per la nostra nazione! È un successo gigantesco perché battono gli invincibili! Li hanno riportati sulla terra! Ci ha pensato Lookman con 3 gol! Ci hanno pensato loro con un cuore enorme! Mona mia! Oggi più che mai!
Right then, Serie A Chronicles Tifosi. This is Patrick Kendrick, coming to you live from Naples, which this time last year was the footballing capital of Italy. It no longer is, and I would even say Milan has been deposed, at least for a week, as the footballing capital of Italy, because the city we're all talking about, the team we're all talking about, is of course ABC. Easy as 1-2-3-0 against Leverkusen. Atalanta Bergamasca Calcio. What a stunning display in Dublin last night. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. I didn't think it would be that easy. Sorry, this is a man just lifting up his shutters on the old edicola where he's selling newspapers, books, et al. Sights and sounds of Naples. Anyway, I digress. What I would say is, I believed, because this is an Atalanta side we've seen week in, week out for 8 years now under Gasperini, and sooner or later the worm was going to turn. They couldn't always be so passive, and unlike Atalanta in finals, we kept seeing that, them getting stage fright, them being a little bit more conservative than the approach that's got them this far, that has brought them so much success, that saw them win this season 3-0 at Anfield, lest we forget. And there's a real symmetry to that. 3-0 at Anfield, and then 3-0 just across the other side of the Irish Sea in Dublin. And I have to say, I wasn't overly enamoured of this Leverkusen side. I think there was a number of late goals from what I could glean from the numbers. I'll hold my hands up and say my specialty is Serie A, so I'm not a huge Bundesliga devotee. So I would much rather talk about what I know, and that was I had faith in Atalanta, than necessarily be fearful of something that I don't know, fear of the unknown, even though the numbers were impressive. But ultimately, having an unbeaten record is one thing, yes. Had they won every game by 2 or 3 goal cushions, then I'd be a lot more willing to say, okay, this is going to be really challenging for Atalanta. But it felt like, especially recently, that they were more attached to their unbeaten record than anything else. And I think there are a number of streaky late goals. We even saw that against Roma, where had Roma not gone gung-ho at the end, they could have easily won 2-1. And in some ways, this is not an Atalanta notion. This is not a Leverkusen podcast, but I actually think in some ways, in hindsight, Leverkusen would have been better off losing that second leg against Roma. Then the unbeaten record had been and gone. They could still argue that actually it didn't matter because they'd won the game on aggregate. And then there was no longer all that talk about that. I think they really felt the pressure in terms of that. But what was great was just you saw the importance of Kolasinac and Scamacca, neither of whom played in the Coppa Italia final. The former because of injury, the latter because of suspension. Scamacca gave Atalanta a presence at the top of the pitch, as we thought he would do. They missed him against Juventus. Kolasinac allows them to play very aggressively with that back three, stepping forward, intercepting the ball, starving Leverkusen of space. And what I loved is, and I think this is why Gasperini is so popular with Guardiola, and Guardiola has so much admiration for Gasperini, is the fact that Atalanta made a lot of good, cheap fouls without getting yellow cards. Some people might say it's cynical, but they played perfectly within the laws of the game. So many of those niggly little fouls in midfield just to stop Leverkusen playing that nice intricate passing. I was impressed with Leverkusen, I have to say, popping it about, a lot of 1-2s for a third man run. We saw that from Atalanta as well at times. But to a man, Atalanta were just superior. I mean, Ederson was outrageously good. Knew exactly where the ball was going, tracked back, won 50-50s, negated the pace of Frimpong down the right in particular. And this is exactly what Atalanta deserve, what Gasperini deserved for 8 years of impeccable running of a football club.
Support for Serie A Chronicles is brought to you by Manscaped, who are the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Shaving your jewels doesn't have to be risky business anymore, thanks to the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. This trimmer is all about keeping things smooth and safe, so you can trim with confidence. Treat your boys down there and join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by going to manscaped.com to get 20% off plus free shipping with code Serie. With Manscaped, it's easy grooming, no surprises.
We took it all. We brought them to our land. An endless night, ember hot and icy cold. The rage of the earth. We made this curse. Carved it in the blood on our backs. We did not see. We could not, but she did. And in the end,
What will I become? Senua's Saga. Hellblade 2.
Play it now with Game Pass.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
Signing players who are unheralded or unfancied or who have underwhelmed elsewhere, developing them on the training ground, getting the best out of them, having them gel as a team, not being afraid to sell off assets when they peak in value, backing yourself to reinvest those funds to then strengthen the team and get better incrementally year on year. They've done that, and this was the culmination of all of that, and it was just so gratifying to see. I get it, Gasperini, in fact I'm talking in hushed tones here because if I'm booming the name Gasperini in Naples, I'll probably get a few dirty looks because he's not popular. Outside of Bergamo, he's very unpopular because he rubs people up the wrong way. He's very direct, he's very cocksure, but ultimately he has courage in his convictions, and that was the one takeaway for me yesterday was his bravery, just how bold he was. They didn't shy away from their principles. Leverkusen were unwilling to curb their game plan to stifle Atalanta, which we saw Juventus actually, great deal of humility shown from Allegri in actually just almost tacitly saying Atalanta are probably a better footballing side than us, but that doesn't mean we can't win on the night. And Atalanta were just so meek against Juventus, and they were the complete opposite yesterday, and I think much of that was because they did have space in which to operate, and it could have been even bigger, the scoreline at the end, than the 3-0 victory by which they won ultimately, because Ketelare missed an opportunity in the first half. But to me it's the perfect example. Ademola Lookman, playing park football till he was 16, Sunday League, late bloomer, burst onto the scene out of nowhere, U17 World Cup winner, I think. Or was it U20? Anyway, U20, I think. Either way, in danger of becoming a journeyman, not really finding his feet. Atalanta bring him in. Gasperini actually referenced that in his press conference. He was asked, what did you see in Lookman? What made you sign him? And he talked about Lee Congerton, who was at Atalanta before, who'd been at Leicester, who knew about Lookman from Everton. So they've always had a great eye for a player, their scouting network. But then they bring them into the club. They give them the small town vibe that they need for these players, just to focus on their football. They're not harassed and chased all over the place by supporters. It's a small town club, small town feel, but a very serious operation. And for Lookman to score a hat-trick in the final like that was just wonderful, especially as so much of the headlines this season, even though he was their top scorer last season, he was away at the AFCON, so that deprived Atalanta of his services for 5 weeks. All the focus has been on Scamacca, quite rightly, Cope Mainers, etc., Di Ketelare, and yet it was Lookman, the fourth of their players that's into double figures for goals this season, that stole the show with that hat-trick. I mean, to score a hat-trick in any final is outrageous. So I felt very proud to cover Italian football last night. I felt very pleased for my friends from Bergamo, for my contacts at Atalanta. I was there for the second leg against Liverpool, and that was a glorious 1-0 defeat for Atalanta, 3-1 aggregate win, and it felt like something significant was brewing. And if they were to choose which trophy they would have preferred, the Coppa Italia or the Europa League, then we all know they would have chosen the latter, and they've won the latter. So I hope it's just the start, but my hunch is Gasperini might now take the opportunity to move on. I wouldn't blame him. I think if you can depart at the peak of your powers, you don't tarnish your legacy. I wouldn't be surprised if he decides to have one big crack elsewhere. There are a number of big jobs on the horizon. I think he still feels like he's got unfinished business with a big club after the way things panned out with Inter. So who knows? Maybe Gasperini will end up in the city where I currently reside, Naples. Anyway, that's me signing off on what was a wonderful night for Atalanta, wonderful season, 8 glorious years under Gasperini, and as he said, you don't need a trophy to define great work. They've got it now, so they can also beat away those particular suggestions from the doubters and the naysayers. But congratulations to Gasperini, congratulations to Atalanta, and congratulations to Bergamo, the new capital of Italian football.
Va Gym City, prende la coppa, la consegna De Ron. L'Atalanta vince la UEFA Europa League, tutti insieme la alzano in alto nel cielo di Dublino, vincono un trofeo importantissimo, il primo nella loro storia, 116 anni, dopo aver vissuto campi polverosi, si prendono la gloria.
Head to SerieAchronicles.com/Patreon now and subscribe to the Chronicles Tifosi Patreon membership with a free 7-day trial. Get early access to every full-length episode and voice note before the rest of the world. Plus, all episodes are 100% ad-free. And you get bonus Patreon-only exclusive episodes, video episodes, and behind-the-scenes extras. Also, be sure to join the new chat community in the Patreon app and chat with fellow subscribers.
Sports Social Podcast Network.